They fought in some of the bloodiest battles of World War II. They saved thousands of lives. They used a language so complex that even the best codebreakers in the world couldn't crack it. Yet, for decades, their stories were buried, forgotten by the very nation they defended. The untold heroes of World War II, Native Americans. And trust me, their impact on the war goes way beyond the legendary Code Talkers. When we talk about World War II, we hear about the battles, the generals, and the iconic moments that shaped history. But what if I told you that one of the most crucial forces in the war wasn't even mentioned in most history books? Over 44,000 Native Americans served in World War II, not just as soldiers but as scouts, snipers, codebreakers, medics, and even resistance fighters. These were warriors in the truest sense, men and women whose skills and courage changed the course of history. Yet when they came home, they were met with anything but gratitude. Their contributions were hidden, their sacrifices ignored. Today, we're setting the record straight. Who were these Native American heroes? What did they do? And why has their role in World War II been overlooked for so long? Despite Native Americans' long history of serving in the U.S. military, their participation in World War II remains one of the most underappreciated aspects of the war. Many of these soldiers fought in segregated units, were denied recognition, and returned home to a country that still refused to grant them basic rights. Yet, without them, some of the war's most decisive victories might never have happened. The call to war. Why did so many Native Americans enlist? The attack on Pearl Harbor sent shockwaves across the United States, and Native Americans responded in overwhelming numbers. Some volunteered out of patriotism, others due to deep-rooted warrior traditions, and many because opportunities were scarce on reservations. The government, desperate for soldiers, recruited heavily from Native communities. What they didn't expect? Native Americans would enlist at a higher rate than any other ethnic group in the country. Military training was brutal, but many Native soldiers adapted quickly due to their cultural emphasis on discipline and resilience. Their ability to endure extreme conditions gave them an edge over many of their fellow recruits. While some faced racism within the military, others found a sense of belonging for the first time, proving themselves as equals on the battlefield. The legendary Code Talkers, America's unbreakable secret weapon. Everyone's heard about the Navajo Code Talkers, but did you know there were also Comanche, Choctaw, Hopi, and other tribal Code Talkers? How their unbreakable code worked and why it baffled Axis intelligence, real battlefield stories. Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, Normandy, where their coded messages saved lives and turned the tide of battle. The training process was intense. Native recruits had to master encoding, decoding, and transmitting messages under high-pressure combat situations. Axis forces attempted to crack the code, even using captured Native American soldiers to try and decipher it, but failed every time. Beyond code-talking Native American warriors in action, Medal of Honor recipients and their insane acts of bravery. The snipers and scouts, Native soldiers who used traditional tracking and hunting skills in jungle warfare. Native American paratroopers who jumped into enemy territory often behind enemy lines and executed dangerous missions with unmatched precision. The role of Native American women in World War II, nurses, factory workers, and even resistance fighters. Stories of Native American pilots who took to the skies in dogfights over Europe and the Pacific, proving their fearlessness in the air. Life on the home front, the war at home. Native Americans not only fought on the front lines but also contributed significantly to war industries, agriculture, and rationing efforts. Many left reservations for the first time to work in wartime factories, changing the economic landscape of Native communities forever. The paradox. Many Native Americans were still not recognized as U.S. citizens while fighting for America. Native communities held war bond drives, collected materials for the war effort, and supported soldiers overseas in any way they could. The betrayal, how America treated Native veterans after the war. The brutal reality. Native veterans returned home to discrimination, poverty, and broken promises. Many who fought for democracy abroad were denied the right to vote at home. The struggle to access veteran benefits. Native American soldiers had to fight for their rightful compensation and health care, often being denied what was promised. Some Native veterans were forced to return to reservations with limited resources, struggling to reintegrate into a society that still saw them as second-class citizens. The fight for recognition, how Native American World War II vets had to battle for benefits they were rightfully owed. Decades later, some Native veterans finally received the honors and recognition they deserved, but many never lived to see it. Despite their sacrifices, Native American soldiers were largely forgotten in mainstream history. It took decades for the U.S. government to finally recognize their contributions. In 2001, the Navajo Code Talkers finally received the Congressional Gold Medal nearly 60 years after their heroic service. But the question remains, why did it take so long? Native Americans didn't just serve in World War II, they shaped its outcome. Their courage, intelligence, and sacrifice played a crucial role in securing victory for the Allies, but history overlooked them. Today, we give them the honor and recognition they deserve. If you think their story deserves to be heard, make sure to subscribe and watch our next video.